Some guy recommended that I put the light instead of behind me in front of me. Super helpful. UFC 315 just took place in Canada in the Bell Center in Montreal. It was a very good event. There was a lot of knockouts in this card. We started the event with the Bruno Silva knockout that made us all wonder if that guy was going to make it until tomorrow. But we got medical updates throughout the card, so it looks like he's actually going to be okay, which is a big W for all of us. But I'm going to break down the main event, and we're going to go down the card. I'm going to talk about all the eventful moments from the main event, the top of it, to the prelims at the bottom. Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. This was a fight that was very interesting and quite honestly weird to watch because Belal Muhammad, he couldn't do Belal Muhammad stuff in this fight. And I'm not disappointed by this just because of the fact that I know that Islam is now going to be targeting the 170 belt, but it was very strange to see how Belal Muhammad went about this fight. He promised that he would win a stand-up war with JDM, and he meant every single word of it, and the fact that he was going to try to beat him in boxing. And he was just getting outclassed. It's not even like this was a one-sided landslide victory for Jack Della Maddalena. He had big moments. He landed a knee. Jack Della Maddalena step-in knee, like that strike that he has is one of his signature moves. He's finished Gilbert Burns with it, and it was a very significant cut that he opened on Belal Muhammad. And from there, he was just dumping the jab off on him. He was moving very well at the beginning of this fight, JDM parrying a lot of the shots. He was boxing like a boxer. I said that he had done this before inside of my predictions video. Jack Della Maddalena came out with the sharpest boxing acumen inside of welterweight. He looks to be the best pure boxer in this weight class. He was working a nice low kick too to get it started, dropping a nice jab off on Belal. Belal was coming back with a very nice jab as well. Whenever he was talking about the Canelo-style boxing, a lot of this stuff wasn't lies. He was actually in the lab working with Ignacio Bahamundes and other people in his camp, getting actual clinical boxing skills. Belal Muhammad came out with a very nice jab. He was doing a lot of movement. So for the first 3 rounds, these two were just kind of rolling each other's shots. They were almost landing a lot of the time. But it took about 120 of those 155 shots in order for JDM to show any type of visible damage in this fight. Belal Muhammad doesn't really hit that hard. And there was very one-sided commentary in this fight that was in full support of JDM. Belal Muhammad was landing some counter rights inside of blitzes that JDM would try to use to get inside of the pocket. And the announcement table would completely glance over these punches that were scoring for Belal Muhammad, which I don't think was fair. Watching this fight on mute would have definitely been the move because DC and John Anik were both just glazing JDM the whole time. So was Dominic Cruz. Nobody was paying any mind to the things that Belal Muhammad was doing right. JDM was doing things at a very high level. Belal Muhammad was doing the same things at a also very high level, but he just wasn't at the same level as JDM, so he was getting outclassed in pretty much most of the rounds. The first round was just straight boxing. Jack Della Maddalena was landing some nice shots on the inside. He was moving out of the way of a lot of Belal Muhammad shots. Belal Muhammad wasn't throwing as many jabs as Jack Della Maddalena at any point in this fight. Jack Della Maddalena really won this fight with the jab. He was mixing the targets. He was punching high. He was hitting Belal Muhammad in his body. He was punching his arms. He was punching his stomach. He won this fight with the jab. It was amazing to see what Jack Della Maddalena was able to achieve using nothing but actual boxing in this fight. Cutting angles, doing everything right. It looked like he was about to mop up Belal Muhammad in the first round. And the second one rolled around, and then the fight started to get a little bit closer. The total strikes really only look the way that they do just because of the jabs. JDM was just sticking this really strong jab on Belal Muhammad, and I'm sure that a few of them counted as significant strikes because a lot of the jabs were landed while JDM was advancing, so he got a little bit of extra oomph on them, and they were stinging Belal Muhammad. But Belal Muhammad has a very good chin, so he wasn't really tweaking over the fact that he was getting jabbed like that in round 2 or round 3 really. This is whenever the fight became sketchier because the pocket exchanges become a lot longer. Jack Della Maddalena was probably training long boxing combinations throughout his fight camp because he felt like they'd work on Belal Muhammad. He was right. And so they were just trading 12 punch combos each inside of the phone booth in this round. And they were missing a lot because each of their head movement is really good. This was a very high level boxing match. If the entire welterweight division went into the Game Bred boxing promotion, Belal Muhammad and JDM would be the top dogs. They're going to be reposting this highlight sequence all over the internet, I already know. It was this straight right and he dips off to the left. And then he shoots a left hook after the straight right, and he rolls off to the side. I think he might even dodged a strike from Belal Muhammad before he landed both of the punches. He was in flow state. Jack Della Maddalena was switching stances a ton, changing the levels. He was even feigning takedowns on Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad's wrestling was really kind of more directed at confusing Jack Della Maddalena through the boxing exchanges, but it wasn't very successful in doing this. This would be a crushing loss for me as a Belal Muhammad fan if I wanted him to win this fight, and I was actually convinced that he was going to come out here and school Jack Della Maddalena. I always had the feeling that it would go like this. Ever since Jack Della Maddalena was rising the ranks, ever since the Basil Hafez fight, I was like, yo, this guy's going to become champion. This guy's so clinical with his hands. Belal Muhammad did a lot of work in the gym to make sure that he came correct so that this wasn't like a beating. Because it very well could have been if he wasn't at least a serviceable boxer throughout this entire experience. Jack Della Maddalena would have done really bad things to him. So people are going to focus a lot on the fact that Belal Muhammad isn't champion, ha 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 ha, and he lost to Jack Della Maddalena, ha 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 ha. And we're going to roast Belal Muhammad, but dude, he did pretty good. Maybe not Canelo, but Belal Muhammad may box like Butterbean or something. I don't know. This was a fun fight. I'm glad that I got to watch it live. I would happily watch this fight again. It delivered on a lot of different levels. One thing that I will note is that Belal Muhammad was complaining that Jack Della Maddalena was slippery. I wonder if this will be another Greasegate scandal like GSP had against BJ Penn, I think it was, where BJ Penn was like, oh no, he was slippery. Belal Muhammad was getting his hands locked around Jack Della Maddalena for takedowns and big throws, and he couldn't land them. So that was very strange. Belal Muhammad's wrestling just didn't work. And even whenever it was like, okay, I'm not going to box now, let's just do the Belal Muhammad stuff, he couldn't do it because his wrestling just wouldn't work on JDM. JDM just didn't consent to getting wrestled by Belal Muhammad, therefore it could not happen. So we get to enjoy a new champion of the welterweight division. For better or for worse, Islam Makhachev is likely going to challenge Jack Della Maddalena. If this is the direction that they want to take the UFC, I want to see Jack Della Maddalena punish the directors for this decision. In the 5th round, he was laying it on really heavy to Belal Muhammad, and he clinched for some reason. I just feel like that was his own fatigue. He was about to finish Belal Muhammad, dude. He caught him with like a couple of right hands, and then an uppercut, and then a lead hook. And then Belal Muhammad was like, whoa, I'm tripping right now. And he almost finished him. He was getting through with lots of knees as well throughout these sequences too. Belal Muhammad was getting worked, but his chin was holding up. Jack Della Maddalena got into a clinch at the very end, which low-key saved Belal Muhammad's life in the 5th round. And then from there, the fight went to a decision. I want to see him knock out Islam Makhachev. He can do it. Islam is smaller. He said he wants to get it back for Volk, which is a cold line if he's able to actually sleep Islam. But it just doesn't even feel right for the fact that I'm actually wanting this to happen, because these are historical champions, fighters I've been fans of for a long time, and they're good Muslims too. And I shouldn't be rooting for them to get slapped by Jack Della Maddalena. And that'll be 2 for 2 on these brothers challenging Jack Della Maddalena. I don't know what it is about this fighter. I just really like him, dude. And everyone liked what he did tonight because he stripped Belal Muhammad of that title. I had no particular horse in that race, to be honest. I like Belal Muhammad. I like JDM. If Belal Muhammad would have come out here and knocked out Jack Della Maddalena, I would have been on this video celebrating that all of the same. But extra points for me because I picked Jack Della Maddalena winning this fight. Maybe not by the KO that I promised, but whatever, dude. Close enough, right? Potato, potato. This fight was booty fart. Manon Fiorot's striking is not as developed as I thought that it was in other fights against, Erin Blanchfield and Rose Namajunas. I think it was just because of the dominance of her clinch game was the reason why I was like, oh yeah, she's a good striker. Because in clinch breaks, she can land elbows, and those could actually have an effect on a fight. But at range, she sucks, and her defense is horrible. She was just playing around in neutral kickboxing and boxing range with Valentina Schevchenko throughout the 1st round. And it took like 3 minutes for her nose to get broken or something. She was just bleeding profusely out of her nose and mouth breathing because she couldn't breathe out of her nose. I was like, Manon, what are you doing? It's Valentina who's supposed to be the one who fucks this up. And then she got back on track into the 2nd round and started working the clinches and stuff. But all of her attempts at wrestling were super unsuccessful. She could not get Valentina to the mat. I guess in the striking she didn't do horrible, but the way she tapered off was horrendous. I really did not like to see the way that she lost. Valentina Shevchenko, I don't know what it is about certain fighters that make Valentina just fold up. Because we saw Alexa Grasso get dismantled before this fight. And Alexa Grasso had a crazy trilogy with Valentina Shevchenko where she won one fight and they fought to a draw in another one. Manon Fiorot had all the skills to win this. She came out, she was the larger fighter. more imposing, seemed to be more powerful. Less of a wider ranging skill set, but more of an ability to get the fight in different places. I don't understand how she fucked this up so badly. For all the hope that I was having from the control time that she was netting from the clinch, I thought that she might be able to buy and battle this one. In the round 4, whenever they were at range, and I was like, alright, cool, you got the clinch time. Let's see some striking now. And it just looked like she was breaststroking across the octagon or trying to swim in air. I was like, dude, what are you doing? It was just confusing to me. It was probably just because of the fact that her nose was smashed. Invisibly, she seemed to have taken a lot more damage than Valentina Schevchenko. Where she was working a high kick that was seeming to work, she went to body kicks that were landing and she abandoned those. I just don't know what her path to victory was. She really tried to clinch Valentina to death, and it didn't work and she lost. There's not really much more of a story to tell on this one. This fight kind of sucked, and it was just another Valentina Schevchenko win. She's perfect until she's not, you know, Valentina Schevchenko. And I'm not even saying that to hate on her. Like, she's literally a perfect fighter for this weight class. But then she'll do something stupid and then fry her long championship title run and then have to get her belt back. And she always does. So this is a fighter who I can see retiring at the top. I don't really know who's going to beat her if it's not. That's unless Natalia Silva has anything to say about it. And they're probably going to push her right to the belt after what she did. My goodness. I don't even want to talk about this one. We're just going to... I feel like it's healthier for all of us if we just act like this never happened. Jose Aldo went out so bad tonight. This was a horrible showing for Jose Aldo. And this was a Drickus level performance for Aiemann Zahabi. I'm glad that I put him on that list of the Drickus style fighters. This is a textbook banana peel style out of Aiemann Zahabi. He got to work looking like actual garbage. But he started MMA and coaching, so he knows all of the techs. He understands the game on the tabletop. Aiemann Zahabi is very sharp on how things work and how striking is supposed to look on film, on paper. He gets in there and he looks like garbage a lot of the time, and then he remembers and he shows shades of being an elite fighter or just charading what he's been teaching other athletes or seeing his brother teach other athletes. He sucks and he has a Jimmy Neutron brain blast and he just locks in the fight. He was working a nice jab. His defense looked impenetrable. Jose Aldo was winging big hooks at this guy. Not kicking his leg though, which was something that I thought was funny. Aiemann Zahabi just stayed very disciplined on this jab. He was moving very well, cutting angles on the inside. Nothing too spicy. No wheel kicks out of this guy. Just big rear hooks he set up with jabs. Right hands he would lead with sometimes. Left hooks that he would follow with after he threw the two, after the jab. Everything came after the jab. This was the night of the jab. Every single fighter who had a good performance or won an important decision won the fight with the jab. Aiemann Zahabi stayed on this all 3 rounds. No takedowns were shot. He stayed true to his promise that this fight would be fought on the feet. Jose Aldo was making me nervous because he was putting a lot of mustard on his shots. He was trying to take Aiemann Zahabi out. Even the body shots that he was digging in. I forgot what the clip was or who he hit it over, where he just dropped a guy with a body shot up against the cage. It might have been Cub Swanson or the Korean Zombie or some old vet who's a very well-known name, like a decorated veteran. He dropped him with a very nasty body shot. Aiemann Zahabi was controlling the range so well in the distance. He was making sure that all of those crushing blows that would kill him slapped his guard, which he inverted like Dustin Poirier and raised very high. And with the body shots, for some reason, he was able to move out of the way just so that they would just breeze right past him. And they were just barely missing him, but they were all missing him. So he looked very good tonight. And the sequence that ended up setting up his victory and solidifying it was in the 3rd round. He had gotten hit with a knee, and it just dazed him. And so he fell against the cage, and as he was standing up, Jose Aldo hits him with a flush kick. And it kind of glances off of his head, but it hits him really hard on the bridge of his nose and on his chin before it hits this part as well. So I was like, okay, this is it. Wallahi, he's finished. And he's running. He's running off of the cage. Jose Aldo is chasing, landing right hands in pursuit of Aiemann Zahabi. Aiemann Zahabi is stumbling all over the place like a newborn deer. I'm sharting my pants watching all of this happen because I really don't want to be wrong about this. And then Aiemann Zahabi gets his wits about him and starts putting it on Jose Aldo. He's letting his straight hand go after he sets it up with his jab. And whenever Jose Aldo dumped his gas tank in pursuit of this finish, that's whenever Aiemann Zahabi starts throwing his two a lot. and he's leading combos with his straight hand, and he's throwing it a lot after the jab. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. He ends up breaking Jose Aldo's guard down. They clinch, and on the break, Aiemann Zahabi, he doesn't even trip Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo is so fatigued that he just falls. He missed weight, and that's the reason why this fight was held at featherweight. Nobody lost money because they just moved the bout up officially, but Jose Aldo tried cutting weight and it failed. So this was a bad weight cut, and his cardio showed like it was a very bad weight cut. And in this third round, he was so tired, and he fell on his back. Aiemann Zahabi mounted immediately, and he started just running elbows through Jose Aldo's head. And I'm not sure if this was an intelligent decision. It got him the win. In the moment, I was like, dude, you just did something so stupid that may have costed you this one. Because it could have been based off of the announcers. I need to start watching these fights on mute, because the fact that they talk and they just are glazing certain fighters and not talking about the fact that other fighters are doing certain things right, it ruins it. DC is really bad with this, and Jon Anik is really bad with this too. I feel like Jon Anik leads the charge of painting narratives about how he wants fights to go and picking favorites. And they were just like, oh, Jose Aldo looks so fast. There's a clear speed and power advantage on the side of Jose Aldo that Aiemann Zahabi doesn't share. And they're just talking about this and talking about this. And Aiemann Zahabi is landing jabs, 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 and straight punches and straight punches and straight punches. And nobody's saying anything. And lead hooks. And he gets hit with the lead hook in the middle of landing like 6 different combinations between Jose Aldo's last combo that they've been glazing the entire time and the lead hook that he just landed on Aiemann Zahabi. And they'll drop whatever the conversation they're having and they'll go, oh, look at that hook. And Aiemann Zahabi's been working this whole time. So at the very end, he is dog tired, Aiemann Zahabi, but he still has more gas than Jose Aldo, who is completely drained. There's 2.5 minutes left on the clock for both of them to work. Jose Aldo's trying to hold a closed guard. Aiemann Zahabi's trying to drop some elbows on Jose Aldo. He ends up posturing up, and he can actually land a few elbows that are significant. He's landing some punches. Let's see what the strike stats in the third round look like, because Aiemann Zahabi was landing a bunch of shots, 62 strikes in that third round. So out of a total, how many? Out of a total of 109 strikes, 62 came in this third round, and it was a lot more than just small pitter-patter shots in full guard. He was smashing Jose Aldo with elbows and making him bleed. This was real DDP on the Pretoria circuit demonstration. If you've never seen Dricus fight as a upcoming professional South African MMA fighter on the regional circuit, this is exactly what one of his fights looked like. Aiemann Zahabi dragged Jose Aldo into deep waters and he drowned him in it. And then at the very end of it all, Jose Aldo, it's so sad to watch him lose, dude. I'm not even talking about any of this like I dislike Jose Aldo. I just predicted that Aiemann Zahabi would win. He's sitting in the corner of the octagon, it's heartbreaking, the visual. And then he retires, basically takes his gloves off, and then they're like, oh, are you done? And then he says in Portuguese, I don't think I have this left in me anymore. Which, good! You should have never taken this fight to begin with. And they were commemorating Vitor Belfort in the Hall of Fame video that they had made. I think that he's going to be inducted soon. Tell me why Jose Aldo is already in the UFC Hall of Fame and he is an active fighter on the roster. The reason why that is because he has already retired in the past, and then he came back to fight more. And this was such a stupid decision for him to have made. And so he's just taking lumps that he could have avoided. And I don't really feel any sympathy for him at this point, because whenever it was Peter Yan before, I didn't want to see Jose Aldo go through that either. This whole bantamweight experiment, it's just CTE he doesn't need. I don't even know how else to put it. The next fight that had happened before then, Natalia Silva, man. Who beats Valentina Schevchenko? Yeah, Natalia Silva. If she can't do it, this division is completely stagnant, because Natalia Silva looks like... Who does she fight like? She fights like a male MMA fighter. Some male MMA fighter I can't think of. Maybe even like Brandon Moreno. She has a really good skill set. Her kicks and her punches and countering abilities are super sharp. In the phone booth, Alexa Grasso was getting really frustrated from the fact that she was just getting front kicked and jabbed. So she would blitz in and just get tagged. And she would maybe land a jab throughout a 4-punch combo that she would try to land. And Natalia Silva would have thrown about 5 punches. maybe one or two additional punches on top of whatever Alexa Grasso offered, and her shots would have been a lot more significant. Alexa Grasso was applying cage pressure that she never even went for takedowns for, and if she did, her ass was just getting reversed off the cage. The reason why the cage pressure never amounted to the takedowns was because Natalia Silva was just moving laterally the whole time, but she wasn't even running from Alexa Grasso. She was just using it to create misdirection, her movement. She was cutting around like the octagon, and then she would just stop and then throw 4 punches, and they would all land on Alexa Grasso's face. And she was throwing high kicks that were landing flush. Alexa Grasso was tanking a lot of these shots, but her face was changing whenever they would land, so they were getting to her. She looked like a very frustrated fighter. Nothing that she was doing was working. In moments where she got inside trying to work her boxing, it seemed like she actually did have a skill set that could match Natalia Silva's as far as the hands went, but she didn't know how to utilize the aggression and burst to where it could be effective and actually matter. Natalia Silva is dangerous without trying, it feels like. And that's why I feel like she's going to be a good title challenger for Valentina Schevchenko, because you need to have the real threat of danger in order to put her on her heels. Alexa Grasso is dangerous for a different set of reasons. Whenever the fight does go to the ground, she is a little bit dangerous, but Natalia Silva is so physical, she can just get up. Natalia Silva may not be as physically strong looking, at least, as Manon Fiorot was, but she may possess a similar physicality. Alexa Grasso was never in a million years going to take down Natalia Silva. It may be impossible for Schevchenko to do the same thing, and if she does, she may just be able to get back up. And as a striker, I feel like Natalia Silva is more fundamental than Valentina Schevchenko. Maybe a little bit less crafty, but that's to be expected. She's a younger fighter. But she has more power, faster hands, more powerful kicks. I think if that same head kick landed on Valentina Schevchenko that cut Alexa Grasso open, we might be looking at the end of the fight or something like this, man. Definitely let Natalia Silva challenge for that belt. She's earned her shot after the performance that she put on. I'm very sick of watching these Alexa Grassos and these insignificant fighters, I feel like, in this division, who even had trilogies with the champion for no reason. I don't know why Alexa Grasso had a trilogy with Valentina Schevchenko. How did Valentina allow this to happen? And they're just getting weeded out now by actual contenders, and they need to compete with Valentina because she's the GOAT until she fights Natalia Silva. In my opinion, I think that this is the girl. Man, what an absolute garbage fire this fight was. I'm ridiculously salty over the fact that this fight went the way that it did. The first round was a complete snooze fest. I think Benoit Denis was just listening to his corner. He came out in round 1 and just immediately double-legged Kyle Prepolec and got the takedown. They start wrestling on the floor. Benoit Denis is just getting his transition stuffed, though, because Kyle Prepolec actually is able to grapple a little bit. And then he stands up, I think. So he's pretty much just neutralizing the positions of Benoit Denis. Benoit Denis is getting this guy to turtle up. He starts attacking half guard. They get to whizzer. Kyle Prepolec goes to turtle. Benoit Denis transitions to the back, gets one of his hooks in. They're close to the cage, so Benoit Denis is fighting for an RNC, and he's not attacking ground and pound or any type of offense from this position. And Kyle Prepolec is kind of just chilling this whole time. If you think back to the way that I had said that Renato Moicano and the way that he did Benoit Denis is the way that Benoit Denis should do Kyle Prepolec, I was thinking that the damage was going to start immediately as soon as they hit the mats, but it wasn't like that at all. Benoit Denis' wrestling didn't even look very sharp in this fight. This was just a showcase fighter for Benoit Denis, so for all of things that he didn't do, 2 out of 3 takedowns, it just makes him look worse. The second round rolls around, and Benoit Denis allowed Kyle Prepolec to land 50% accuracy at 14 strikes. Whenever they were boxing, Benoit Denis' striking looked horrendous. This was a shame. The fact that Benoit Denis conned all of us into thinking that he was good or something. Kyle Prepolec is just some guy that they got in off the street, and he actually looked to be at a UFC level for like 7 minutes. I was very disappointed in this performance. I was not impressed by this at all. The takedown that would end up sealing this fight ended up coming into the second round. Benoit Denis ended up getting inside and landing some nice elbows, I guess, before then he was working the body too, but his head movement was non-existent. Benoit Denis, if you want to hold Jack Della Maddalena as a standard for what boxing and MMA should look like, he's the best at it. But if you want to emulate him as an MMA fighter or hold him as a standard, Benoit Saint-Denis didn't even look anything close to what JDM displayed in the range of like head movement or level changes or stand switches. As a striker, Benoit Saint-Denis is actually pretty bad. And whenever they got to the ground for the second time, Kyle Prepolec was already pretty disoriented from the abuse that he was taking on the feet. Benoit Saint-Denis was able to wrap up an arm triangle down there pretty fast. As he was transitioning through the positions, I think he got to the mount and then threw the arm triangle in and then just swept his legs off to the side and finished it. Kyle Prepolec ends up tapping. This was not a good fight. Benoit Saint-Denis calls for Gamrot after he wins. Gamrot is about to torture this guy. And if Gamrot puts on a good performance against Benoit Saint-Denis, which he can totally do, then I'm going to become a Gamrot fan again because I abandoned the Gamrot hype train after he lost to Dan Hooker the way that he did. But Benoit Saint-Denis versus Gamrot make the fight. Kyle Prepolec sleeps with the fishes, but this is a big check that he got from the UFC that he gets to take back home to his family. He didn't even take much damage too, so whatever organization that he's fighting in, he can just go back there and chill. This is a story to tell. He made some money, so the complete victory for him. Congratulations. Mike Malott beats Charles Radke, a blessed Canadian left hook in front of his fans. Honestly, that was a cool moment for him, but it came at the expense of my American, so I'm not really too crazy about that. That was pretty hard to watch. I'm sure a lot of people took Charles Radke as an underdog for betting too. Radke losing means that Belal's gym got swept, which sucks as well. Jessica Andrade, I said that Jasmine Jasudavicius would have the best win over Andrade that any woman has ever scored in the UFC, and I would say that that probably was the best submission that any woman has ever scored over Andrade. Jasmine Jasudavicius just came out and destabilized Andrade. I can't even put it in another way. She just picked her up and put her in a position that she wasn't in before Jasmine Jasudavicius initiated physical contact with her. And then once they got to the ground, Andrade just couldn't do anything and got her back taken, and Jasudavicius was in on that rear naked choke, and Andrade was tapping. And she barely even needed to get punched in order for this to happen. I'm sure those 27 shots were landed from the back take position and were just on the ear. That's a very high-level grappler. Natalia Silva does have a win over Jasmine, so she should be pushed ahead of her towards the title, but if they end up rematching, or Jasmine Jasudavicius ends up reaching the title in her own respects because of the work that she's been putting in, or if they want to rematch make them, I'm not sure what the plan is for that division, but they do actually have a couple of contenders. Natalia Silva and JJ are pretty good fighters, and I do root for them whenever they do fight, so I wonder who I'd root for if they fought each other again. Modestas Bukauskas versus Iwan Kudalaba, the most Mickey Mouse decision ever. I sat there in front of my computer monitor right here like this, and I watched Iwan Kudalaba beat Modestas Bukauskas via 29-28 decision, but I guess I didn't, because at the end of it all, that 29-28 went to Modestas. Navajo Sterling's fight sucked, but he kind of saved it at the end. If he can focus and just come out looking the way that he did in the third round against even Ursulan in all of his fights and finish them afterwards, then we might have an actual contender here. Otherwise, there wasn't really much of a story to tell about that. Marc-Andre Barrios versus Bruno Silva. This was a horrendous knockout. If you haven't seen the clip of this, go watch it. Clinch elbows? Bruno Silva was asleep for a minute, and he wasn't moving. He wasn't getting up. I want to say it was about maybe 3 minutes Bruno Silva was out, which was scary. And they moved him to the hospital. And like I said before, we were getting medical updates on his condition because he got mixed. Bruno Silva was down for the count. Daniel Santos, he came out and he looked like he had eaten the old Daniel Santos. Very heavy now. 145. I think that he had gotten hurt, and that's the reason why he's no longer a bantamweight. He fought Jung Young Lee, and he's very scrappy still, but he's heavy now. And that translated to him being able to stuff takedowns very well. And he has significant power too, it seems like. But that was something that kind of blindsided me. I was very used to the frail body Brazilian shoot-a-box bantamweight, Daniel Santos, Daniel Santos is Daniel Santos. But then he came back, brown-haired, and a gut on him. He had lean gut. He still looked dangerous as ever. I'm glad that I picked him still. I kind of regretted my decision because he was dropped pretty early on in the fight, but he rallied and ended up putting it on Zhang Yongli with just high output. He had Ian Gary there in the corner too, and Ian Gary is bringing brains back to Shoot a Box, and he might make their gym a lot more successful by helping them game plan just as a gym, all of their fighters. So I liked what I saw out of him. The first fight was a very early stoppage, Brad Katona versus Begsat Almakhan. The ref could have definitely let this fight go on a little bit longer. In Begsat Almakhan, he got his punch checked with Brad Katona's face at the very end sequence, and he was about to tap out. So if the ref would have given that one about 30 more seconds, we might have seen something crazy. I'd say UFC 315 was a smashing success. I'm thinking about potentially better outcomes. Maybe Valentina Schevchenko losing just for no reason, just so I wouldn't have been wrong about the Manon Fiorot decision. But everything else hit pretty much. Like, let me count it up. I went 9-3 on this card, and those are pretty good stats for me. I mean, lately I've been doing pretty well, but 9-3 is pretty good. I feel like I thought a lot about my picks for this card. I feel like I could have been wrong about the Modestas Bukauskas, and then that would have been 8-4, and we would have had to live with that. But 9-3 is pretty solid. Thank you guys for watching up until this point. I'm probably going to end up going to sleep now or maybe playing some Fortnite. I'm going to catch you guys with another upload, likely tomorrow. Like, comment, and subscribe if you made it to this point in the video. Stay safe out there. I will see you in the next one.